Today on Hearts of Heroes. Paradise Valley, Arizona is pummeled with a frightening flash flood,
It almost looked like a river we were driving through on the fire truck.
forcing a mother and daughter into a perilous situation.
I was faced with something that I never thought would ever happen to me.
Yeah, that is a river going on.
I just thought, this is it. This is my fear, I'm gonna drown.
And later, winter weather slams Ohio, and a guard dog named Frankie falls into freezing waters.
I could tell it was frightened. It was paddling very fast, trying to do everything it could to get to me.
Risking their lives to save yours, that's our first responders, all heart.
Degree temps in the summer, spring training, the Grand Canyon. These are all things that most people would associate with Arizona. But flash flooding caused by a tropical storm? Yeah, that's probably not the first thing that comes to your mind. But remnants of hurricanes often fuel flash flooding in the desert Southwest. That's exactly what happened on October 2nd, 2018 in Phoenix, when what was left of Hurricane Rosa created one of the wettest days in recorded history. The rain fell so quickly that streets filled with water, and many people found themselves in immediate need of help from Arizona's finest.
Paradise Valley, Arizona is a beautiful resort town. It's just 15 minutes northeast of Phoenix, with world-class golf courses and, of course, spectacular desert vistas.
I've lived in Arizona since 1979, when it was just dirt and cactus. And now it's a very popular state. It seems to be everyone's congregating to Arizona.
The state is also famous for its weather.
I always said that the newscasters have like the easiest job, because every day it's sunny, and there's never a cloud in the sky and there's no rain in the forecast.
That is true for 9 months of the year, but then a seasonal shift.
We get monsoons that come through during the summertime, and those are very unpredictable. A lot of very heavy rainfall, high winds, lightning and thunder.
Hurricane Rosa, which had just ripped through Mexico a week earlier, causing more than $50 million in property damage, was still alive and still packing a punch, now dumping record amounts of rain over Arizona in a very short amount of time.
This happened in less than 1 minute. It's crazy!
Even though Rosa at this point had been downgraded from a hurricane to a tropical depression, didn't mean the danger was gone.
So, on October 16th, 2018, as Terry's daughter Madeline Brinson recalls, she wasn't all that concerned with the weather.
I woke up and I was planning on going to work. My mom was in the kitchen making coffee and watching the news. She had mentioned floodings and street closures. So we decided to leave an hour early.
So we just took our typical route, which is a very busy road, and traffic was flowing. There were a few puddles here and there, and the next thing we knew, brakes were going, cars were starting to swerve.
What I saw when we turned the corner to pull up into my work was water, flooding. And I thought to myself, Mom, just keep going. All the other cars are going straight ahead. And my mom said, I don't think this is a good idea.
And that is a river going on. People are trying to get through it, which is kind of nuts.
All of a sudden, the car, literally, it was like it just lifted, like off the ground, and we're floating, and I no longer had control.
Water is very powerful. Water moving at just 7 miles an hour has the same force per unit as an F5 tornado. It has the ability to move people, has the ability to move vehicles as well.
All of a sudden, a huge bus just comes by, came this close to hitting our car. We're seeing all these other cars now, they're bottoming out and they're floating.
I remember looking over at my mom, and the water started rising and rising.
We just looked at each other and we just started panicking. I just thought, this is it. This is my fear. I'm gonna drown.
Coming up, can Phoenix firefighters save Terry Lynn and her daughter?
The water was up to the door on that fire truck. I was just like, guys, please come, please, please.
But first, here's a safety tip that may help you.
If you come to a flooded road, stop, turn around, and find a different route to your destination. No deadline is worth risking your life over.
Obey barricades and signs that warn of road flooding. Even if the water looks shallow, don't attempt it. Water can be much deeper than it appears and hide major road hazards. Turn around, don't drown.
To be safe, always be on the lookout for potential hazards. It's the least you can do for you, your loved ones, and your community's safety.
In October of 2018, Paradise Valley, Arizona was walloped with a late-season flash flood.
This happened in seconds.
Terry Lynn Doss had been driving her daughter Madeline to work when their car got stuck with a few others and became semi-submerged in the rushing waters.
This is Tatum, just north of Shea. Yeah, that is a river going on.
Making matters worse, Terry Lynn can't swim.
We're sitting in the car and the water is all the way up now to my window. And we don't know what we're gonna do. And I can't swim. So I'm thinking, this is it. I'm gonna drown.
Throughout Paradise Valley, officials had already started closing flooded roads, but that didn't stop the flood of calls coming in. In other parts of the country, 911 calls go directly into the fire department. But out here, all calls go through the Phoenix Fire Department's Regional Dispatch Center.
We're one of the largest non-military communication centers in the country. We have more than 1 million telephone calls annually coming into the center. We probably had about 24 people on duty at the time, and all of us were busy taking in phone calls. It was all hands on deck, as the phrase goes.
911 operators are the first responders of the first responders. They are a vital part of the chain, and they do a fantastic job under a lot of pressure.
This dispatch center uses advanced computer tracking on all responder vehicles to find the closest possible unit to the current call. For Terry Lynn and Madeline, the closest unit was Captain Chad Cordelis and his team. But even these first responders were shocked by what they saw that day on Tatum Road.
I've lived here my entire life. I'm very familiar with this area. And as we made our way closer to the area, we saw that there was, feet of standing water. And that's nothing that I had ever expected or had seen before. It was certainly an anomaly.
We had to pass over a few roads that the town of Paradise Valley had already closed down. It was pretty amazing. It almost looked like a river we were driving through on the fire truck.
It's very important to remember that not only are natural disasters seemingly unpredictable, but so are the conditions caused by them. Just because this specific area has never flooded before doesn't mean it won't. It's crucial to always use caution, listen to the news, and pay attention to signs and other communications first responders use to warn you of danger.
Because of the flooding, engineer Mike Thomas took extra care behind the wheel as they approached the scene.
After talking with Chad, my captain, we both agreed that safety is the first concern of ours for not only the people that we're trying to help, but for ourselves as well, right? We don't want to put ourselves in harm's way.
So as we approached the scene and we saw the water, we kind of took a step back and we stopped. And we looked at the situation, we tried to gauge how deep the water was.
The water was up to the door on that fire truck. I was just like, guys, please come, please, please.
We tried to gauge how many vehicles were involved, and we wanted to try to gauge which vehicles did we want to go through first.
I was so sad and scared, and then all of a sudden, no more fear. The firefighter grabbed me and took me out, and it was like the most bravest, magical feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life. This hero, this angel, is rescuing me.
They just were fearless and like they were on a mission. And they came and they did their job and they did it really well.
It was good pulling up on scene and being able to make a difference.
These firefighters and their bravery, their integrity, they're heroes to me. A hero is somebody who does something, who genuinely cares for others to the point that they will sacrifice everything to live out their real reason why they're here, which is a bigger and greater version of anything that I would rather be.
Coming up, sacrificing one's own safety to save a furry friend from an icy pond.
I ran and I got my waders and tried to break it with the oar, and the oar snapped.
It's not easy keeping youngsters out of trouble. As parents, we've all been there, trying to shield our kids from all the dangers in the world. So what happens when that youngster is actually a 100-pound dog? Sure, you could tell it to sit or even stay, but stay out of danger? It's not always that simple. Luckily for one family in Ohio, when one of their worst fears came true, first responders were right there to jump in.
Norton, Ohio is a small town of 12,000 people in the northern part of the state. Pastoral, peaceful, Americana.
We have several large working farms still. We have a mix of newer allotments. It's just a nice, quiet little town.
Well, I like it because it's kind of a mix between city and the country, because we have our animals and our children. I feel like they're pretty lucky to grow up with a hobby farm, but then we're also down the street from like a major shopping area.
And although the winters are definitely snowy and cold, the people are friendly and warm.
I know everybody that lives by us, and we all help each other out. Like, I actually had to borrow a bale of hay from the lady across the street yesterday.
Jillian and her husband Sam, a firefighter in nearby Akron, are not only raising 3 young children, but dozens of animals on their farm, which includes a small pond that the ducks like to use when the weather permits. The latest addition to their family farm is a young dog named Frankie. That's short for Francine.
The kids love Frankie. She's a big teddy bear. I think she thinks she's a sibling more than she's a dog. So sometimes I'll get her in the car for a school drop-off, and she cries when they get out of the car and run up the steps. She's getting too big for the back of my car, so I don't know how long we'll be able to keep doing that.
But fun-loving Frankie is much more than a pet or a furry sibling. She's also a valuable worker.
We got her for the purpose of protecting our farm, our livestock. We have a lot of predators, coyotes, raccoons, possum, and we were losing ducks and chickens.
But their Great Pyrenees pup was a perfect solution. Frankie was the farm's protector until one winter day when she became the one who needed help.
My husband was at work, and I dropped the kids off at school. I came home, and I usually do all my barn chores in the morning. The pond was just kind of covered with snow, so when I let Frankie out to let her run around, she ran across the pond. But I didn't know it until, I was calling for her and she wasn't coming, so then I looked over at the pond.
After wandering onto the partially frozen pond, Frankie crashed through the surface and was struggling.
The first thing that went through my mind was how I was gonna get her out. I called everyone I could think of. I texted my neighbor Julie and asked her to bring her kayak down, and she came right away. We tried crushing the ice with the weight of the kayak to try and move it through the water, and tried to break it with the oar, and the oar snapped.
With Frankie trying to stay above the surface of the icy water, Jillian realized she needed help.
We called 911 for them to come out and help us because we knew we weren't gonna be able to get out there.
911, what is your emergency?
Jillian did the right thing because Frankie needed help fast. When someone or something is in danger, always call the professionals. They're trained for these types of rescues.
With the weather that day and the water temperature, the dog had very limited time to survive in that water, so it was crucial that we got there as fast as we possibly could.
Coming up, with the clock ticking and Frankie struggling in freezing water, Can the Norton Fire Department get there in time?
Frankie was hanging on a chunk of ice, looked very tired, about ready to give up and scared.
But first, here's a safety tip that may help you.
Although we might think a frozen lake or pond can support our weight, ice that's less than 3 inches thick should be avoided at all costs.
If anyone or anything in your party falls through the ice, your first reaction should be remain calm and call 911. Get those who are trained to handle rescues there before putting yourself and others in great danger.
By knowing your winter safety protocol, everyone and everything will be thankful that you did.
On a snowy, freezing day in Norton, Ohio, Jillian Olson had summoned the fire department because her dog Frankie was in danger.
She was in the middle of the pond just staring at me, so it was pretty sad look on her face.
Knowing that a water rescue would require wearing special gear, the officer in charge, or OIC, quickly delegated the risk assignment to firefighter Dwayne Marty.
The OIC kind of chose me to rescue the dog, save the dog from the frigid temperatures and waters. So en route, got ready. Time is everything. The faster we can get ready, the faster we can help somebody.
Despite the rough conditions, Jillian was still out there trying to get her family's pet when the fire department arrived.
My first concern was that the homeowner was on the ice in a canoe trying to get to the dog. So I immediately went to her, tried to assure her that we would take care of the situation.
I was still like a third of the way out on the pond, so Chief Schultz came up and said, "You need to come back because we don't want to rescue you too."
In our enthusiasm and desire to rescue our loved ones, whether human or animal, we sometimes throw caution to the wind. Jillian was at risk in an unstable kayak with heavy winter clothes on, and she did the right thing to get out of the water when the chief asked her to.
And we just got there. Obviously, Frankie was hanging on a chunk of ice, looked very tired, about ready to give up and scared.
My first thoughts when I saw the dog was, how was the dog going to react? You know, I don't know the dog.
Myself and Assistant Chief Copen tended the rope, and Dwayne entered the water.
Well, I just let her out like 10 minutes before I called you guys.
You could tell it's very tired. It's kind of at the end of its fight.
Whenever a rescue's on ice, it is impossible to tell how much weight that ice can sustain. For Officer Marty, a key safety technique was distributing his weight evenly over the unstable surface of the ice.
The closer Dwayne gets to the dog, the more she paddles trying to swim towards him, like she knew he was there to help her out.
I know, I couldn't find her. I came back.
I could tell it was frightened and was paddling very fast, you know, trying to do everything it could to get to me. So I kind of went around the dog and bear hugged him up, and they started pulling us and walking out.
There you go. Hook her up, Dwayne. Good job.
Good girl, Frankie.
Oh, come on.
Less than a half an hour after realizing her dog had plunged into the pond, Jillian could finally breathe a sigh of relief.
When he got Frankie to the edge of the pond, I was really thankful. I think they said if she had been in there much longer, her core temperature was going to be too low. So they said that it could have been potentially fatal.
A couple other firefighters actually picked the dog up and carried him to the back of one of our ambulances so we could get him warm, wrapped him in blankets. And amazingly enough, within about 20 minutes, we opened the back door and she jumped out and was running around and playing with all the firemen. It didn't faze her. She was ready to play.
For a protective mother, the whole incident was a perfect reminder of how important it is for her kids to be safe around the pond.
I had just told them the week before that how dangerous it is if you go in that water. You could never go back there without, your mom or dad.
And now Frankie is safer too, thanks to this new life jacket. Months after that emotional day, Frankie and her family of humans took some donuts to the Norton Fire Department.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
To give thanks one more time.
Jill was very, very thankful and very emotional. She was having a difficult time watching her poor dog struggle in the water.
They went above and beyond. They got her out and, they could have left, but they made sure she was warm. They made sure I was okay.
One broken kayak paddle and one 911 call later, Frankie is happy and healthy. And everyone on the Olsen family farm is forever grateful.
Firefighters help save our dogs.
From a family in Arizona to the Olsens of Norton, Ohio, and from all of us, thank you to all of our courageous heroes. It's times like these when we're even more grateful for your service. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Ginger Zee, and we'll see you next time.